Welcome to the Deep Dive. So today we're really focusing in trying to understand the journey of Kendi Ntwiga during her time at Microsoft. We've got this compelling video interview, which is our main window into her experiences.
Right.
And really, our mission here is to dig into those key decisions, the impactful moments, that really defined her time there.
Yeah.
Especially thinking about that move to Meta later on.
Yeah, and what jumps out almost immediately when you look at Kendi starting at Microsoft is this, significant hurdle she faced right away.
Okay.
She actually describes the relationship between Microsoft and the government as terrible.
Terrible?
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. So when you hear that, you have to wonder what was really going on.
Exactly. Were there specific policy fights, maybe regulatory issues, or just, a lack of communication?
Understanding those initial problems really puts her achievements into perspective, doesn't it?
It really does, because it wasn't just about smoothing things over a bit.
No, clearly not. The fact that it ended with the president himself actually visiting the Microsoft office, that suggests a pretty huge turnaround.
A massive turnaround.
So what do you think? What were the key things she might have done to, make that happen, to shift that relationship so dramatically?
That's the really interesting part. When Kendi says something like, externally, I delivered what God needed to do, it shows this real sense of purpose, agency. But it also makes you ask, okay, what did that actually involve? What were the steps?
Right. Was it about building trust, finding common ground?
Maybe consistent engagement, maybe identifying areas where they could collaborate, things that benefited both sides. Or perhaps it was about changing how Microsoft was perceived, making its value clearer for, say, national goals.
Yeah.
Understanding how she actually navigated all that. Well, that would be incredibly useful for anyone in that kind of position.
Definitely paints a picture of someone not afraid to tackle big challenges straight on. And then, she's only been doing this really intense work for about 18 months.
Yeah, just 18 months.
And she gets a LinkedIn message about a global leadership role in Dublin.
Right. Talk about unexpected.
Totally unexpected. What was your take on that sudden shift?
Well, it just kind of shows how careers aren't always linear, They can take these sharp turns.
Oh, yeah.
And her first thought, questioning, God, you only sent me here for 18 months, it suggests she's quite reflective, open to these things. It makes you think, how do we react to unexpected offers? Are we tuned in to when maybe one chapter is closing, even if it feels early?
Especially considering the timing. I mean, think about what was happening then.
Oh, absolutely. COVID-19.
The huge sudden shift to working online, the pressure on tech companies, especially Microsoft, must have been just unbelievable.
Unbelievable is right. Leading any company through that kind of crisis would be, a massive test.
And she was relatively new there, right? At a huge company like Microsoft.
Exactly. The learning curve must have been incredibly steep. And it wasn't just internal stuff.
No.
The source points out governments everywhere were looking to tech companies for answers, for solutions.
Ah, right. So pressure from both sides. Inside the company, keep operations going, and outside, help solve this global crisis.
Yeah, dual pressure. It creates this incredibly complex situation to manage.
And she mentions relying a lot on her internal team during that time. Her team was strong.
Which tells you something important about her leadership, doesn't it?
Yeah. What do you think?
It really highlights how crucial it is to build a strong, capable team before a crisis hits. You can't just magic one up.
Good point.
And her being willing to lean on them, their expertise, instead of trying to do it all herself, that suggests, collaborative style, trusting the team.
And she seems pretty grounded about leadership too, right? That quote about the position.
Oh, yeah. There is Kendi, there's a position. I understand those very well. Yeah. That phone will stop ringing as soon as that position goes.
That's very pragmatic.
Very pragmatic. It shows she understands the attention often comes with the role, not just the person. And that probably helped her focus on empowering the team, letting them deliver.
Yeah, focusing on the real work. And the result was pretty significant, wasn't it? Microsoft making Teams available for free.
It really was. That decision genuinely helped keep economies going, businesses running during the lockdowns. You can hear her pride, right? Being part of a company that stepped up like that. It really links her own values to what the company was doing on a huge scale. Makes you think about the potential impact corporations can have, for good.
Which kind of brings us back to her earlier question, doesn't it?
Yeah.
About her purpose at Microsoft, why she felt sent there.
Right. She compared it to that feeling she had at Intel before. So what was the answer for Microsoft?
What did she land on?
It seems like her farewell party was a key moment for reflection.
Okay.
She realized her time there was about fast-track influence and being there as she used the word midwife during that incredibly tough COVID period.
A midwife. That's an interesting metaphor.
Isn't it? So even though it was relatively short, just over 2 years, the intensity and the importance of what she did made it really impactful.
That idea of fast-track influence, it's powerful. How do you make a difference quickly in a new place?
Exactly. And you see the proof, right? Those big achievements.
Like getting the president to officially open the Microsoft office.
Yeah, and also making sure the global president's visit included Kenya. That's a big deal internally.
Especially since apparently Kenya wasn't even on the original plan for that visit.
Right, so that shows she was really advocating for her team, for the region, highlighting its importance.
And thinking about the impact on the employees there, too.
She mentioned that specifically, how much it meant to the local team. So getting those things done, fixing the government relationship, getting that global recognition that must have felt like, completing the mission.
Yeah, a real sense of accomplishment before leaving. It's also interesting, that little detail about AI training being sent to the Kenya office to learn about African culture, referencing Trevor Noah.
It is. It shows that the office she helped build, the presence there, had really become significant, a resource with unique regional knowledge.
So it wasn't just about her time, but the lasting foundation.
Precisely. The long-term value of building that strong local presence.
Which then makes that move to Meta, sparked by the LinkedIn message, feel. Well, it makes more sense in context. She felt she was done at Microsoft.
Yeah, her words were, "I have finished." That sense of completion seems key.
But there were personal things going on too, right? It wasn't just professional.
Absolutely. Personal factors seem to line up with this professional timing. Her nephew had moved in with her.
Oh, okay.
And she worried about how difficult things might have been for him during COVID if he'd stayed back in the village. So the timing felt important there too.
And the Meta offer included relocation for the family.
Yes, which likely made a huge difference, provided that support system for a big move.
And it also connected to something deeper for her, didn't it? This desire to adopt.
It did. Apparently that was a long-held wish, something she'd talked about even before she was married or had her biological children.
Wow. So this wasn't a sudden idea.
Not at all. A deeply held personal value, and then navigating the whole legal side of it. International adoption or guardianship isn't straightforward.
No, I imagine not.
Yeah.
Different rules, different countries. She mentioned working with an attorney, Mark.
Yeah, to handle the legal process needed to relocate the children internationally. It highlights the sheer amount of personal effort involved alongside this massive career change.
And she insisted on waiting, right? Waiting until all the paperwork was done before she actually left Kenya.
Making sure all her children could move together. That really shows her commitment to family.
So she's juggling top-level Microsoft duties, a global pandemic response, and this complex international family move.
It's quite something. Really underscores how multifaceted leadership is at that level. Personal and professional are deeply intertwined.
And that waiting period, it also aligned with finishing up her key projects at Microsoft, like the president's visit.
Exactly. It all seemed to come together around April 2022 when she finally left Kenya.
So, looking back at her Microsoft tenure, that realization about fast-track influence, being a midwife, during that critical time, it really captures it, doesn't it?
It really does. It wasn't about how long she was there, but about the impact, the intensity during that specific crucial window.
So as we wrap up this deep dive on Kendi Ntwiga at Microsoft, it kind of leaves you, the listener, with a question to ponder, doesn't it? How can any of us spot our own potential for that kind of fast-track influence in whatever role or organization we're in? Maybe even if it feels like a short stint.
And how do those deep personal values, those aspirations we hold, how do they really shape our professional choices and maybe even how we approach the work itself?
Yeah. What might be that unique contribution you're positioned to make right now in your own context? Something to think about.